All right, what is up, everybody? We are live. Got a few things to go over here before we jump into the comments section. First of which being that Kurt Busch is officially cleared to do some racing, and he will be doing that racing at the Race of Champions with Travis Pastrana, where he will represent the USA. Now, I'm not 100% familiar with this. I just don't know anything about it, to be totally honest with you. But it is cool that he gets an opportunity to race again, especially the way his racing career was cut short in the NASCAR Cup Series. So I feel like that's a pretty good story because he was up until the moment where he got hurt. He was still winning races and had that good streak going on and all those kind of good things. So it is good to see him get back behind the wheel, and also that he's just medically cleared to get back behind the wheel. Like, it took a long time, but it's good to see that he's finally back. And hopefully everything goes well over there. And hopefully we can report that he wins, or at least has a good showing. Him and Travis Pastrana, I should say, win. And I have a good showing over there. So I have to look into more of it to see exactly what's going on with that. Jimmy Johnson and Tom Brady teaming up to run IndyCar. So that's a cool deal. So we'll see what comes of that. And then, of course, one more story. I meant to talk about this one. This is the third time that I almost forgot to do this. Cletus McFarland turned 41 laps in an Arca race. So I wanted to give a shout out there. I told somebody in the comment section that I would put it in the next video, and I forgot to do it. So here I am making good on that, even though I'm one video off. Cletus McFarland in the Arca series turned 41 laps, and it brings up a few interesting things. Does he have plans to race in the future in NASCAR? And I do think overall, if he decides to do that, I think that would be a good thing. He brings a lot of attention. He's pretty huge on social media. If you don't know who I'm talking about, he's the YouTuber that says "Hell yeah, brother." So that's Cletus. Does all the motorsports things. Really has done all kinds of videos. I think his probably one of his most famous ones, at least for NASCAR fans, is he bought the Mike Skinner truck, or the Dale Earnhardt truck, as a lot of people call it. So I think that's probably one of his more famous videos, or series of videos, as far as that one goes. So that was pretty cool. So cool to see that he has turned some laps in Arca. And let's see what else we got to talk about here. Mike Wallace, of course. Mike Wallace is one of the big deals, I should say. Should he be allowed to race? If you're not familiar, Mike Wallace said he was going to race in the Daytona 500, had a deal worked out with Carl Long and MBM, and NASCAR said, no, you're not. So before the race even started, he got DQ'd, and it seems to be a little bit of a miscommunication. Mike Wallace, I was listening to Kenny Wallace's I don't know if it was a live stream or if it was an actual video, but it was about a 30-minute video or something I watched from Kenny Wallace, where he explained that Mike Wallace talked to basically some people in NASCAR corporate, some of the higher ups, the head honchos. He didn't necessarily name who it was, whether it was Steve Phelps or not. I get the feeling that it was probably somebody like Steve Phelps, but at least one of the higher ups in NASCAR corporate. The NASCAR corporate higher up said, "That's awesome, great, can't wait to see you out there on the racetrack." So I feel like Mike Wallace took that as, hey, I'm good to go. Mike Wallace probably told MBM, hey, I talked to people at NASCAR. They said, I'm good to go. Let's put the press release out there. Let's get this thing rolling. And from there, I feel like MBM made the announcement. Then NASCAR, the competition side of NASCAR, got involved in it and said, no, you're not clear to go because you haven't raced in over 5 years, at least an intermediate and things like that. So that particular deal that he had organized to get going, that sort of got shot down. And I don't think, and because it's Carl Long, because it's MBM, there's going to be a lot of people that put their tinfoil hat on. I'm typically, as far as Carl Long stuff goes, I'm typically one of those people that put the tinfoil hat on. But in this particular situation, if you use Occam's razor, which is the most likely possibility, is probably what happened. The most likely probability is he asked one person at NASCAR, and that person said yes, but it was the wrong person to ask at NASCAR because it wasn't on the competition side. It makes the most sense that that's what happened. And he thought he was clear. He probably told Carl Long that he was clear. Carl Long probably took him at his word because, why wouldn't you? So most likely that's what happened. So that's where you get this big kerfuffle. I don't think it's this big conspiracy theory that NASCAR is out to get Mike Wallace because they're still mad about the tweets he made in 2020 or 2020. He made the tweets. And I read something where he was reinstated sometime in 2021. So he went through his sensitivity training and he did get reinstated. So I don't think that holds weight. I don't think it's NASCAR still harboring a grudge against Carl Long and MBM for the motor incident, for being a start and park team, various things that NASCAR in the past, in my opinion, has held a grudge against MBM for. So I don't think it's any of that stuff. I think it's honestly just a miscommunication. And the fact that it happened, somebody brought up, I can't remember who it was, if it was Kenny Wallace or if it was Eric Eastep, but one of those two brought up the fact that it happened during the holidays. And so part of the reason could be that there wasn't a full staff in the offices when all this went down. And that's probably why it got as far as it got. It was Eric Eastep because he was talking about the Brandon Brown situation when he got the Let's Go Brandon coin car passed, and then when everybody came back to work, it got rejected, like one of those deals. So that most likely, if you take the time frame given, that's a good point. So a good thing to point out there from Eric, and that makes the most sense. But that being said, it doesn't necessarily, in my opinion, end the issue because they should probably, and they said he can't race, I guess, until 2026. But in my opinion, if you're going to let Elio Castroneves race, even though he's got, more recent experience, but if you're only going to make him run Arca and then he can run a cup race, why not give Mike Wallace the same opportunity? If Mike Wallace can put together an Arca deal, he should be able to run cup. I don't think that's necessarily, as long as everything goes good in the Arca deal or something like that, I don't think that's necessarily the worst path to take. And I don't know if it's right or wrong. It's just something that I thought about. You should at least offer him a path. And the fact that this came this late in the game, maybe there would have been a path, but I guess Mike Wallace got this deal put together in the 11th or 12th hour, however you want to say it. So maybe that had something to do with it too. But I do feel like there probably should have been at least a path offered to him, given the situation, because it was a great story. He opened up about being lonely because he had lost his wife, and that's part of the reason that he has been inactive for that amount of time. He was taking care of her, so it was going to be a really, really great story. Him attempting to qualify for the Daytona 500. And as much as I hate to see that story go away, I do see NASCAR side of it. NASCAR has rules. They want to keep these rules. They want to make it harder, where NASCAR has been very laissez-faire, but very lenient in the past with letting people run whatever, whenever. Maybe they're starting to crack down, or not maybe, they are starting to crack down on it now. So I understand NASCAR side of it, but it doesn't make it suck any less that Mike Wallace is not going to at least get to attempt to do it. So I understand both sides of it. But I do feel like there was a third option where NASCAR maybe gives them a quick pass where, hey, you run the Arca race, you do everything right in the Arca race, we'll go ahead and let you race Daytona. So that is basically the poll question. Mike Wallace should be allowed to race. NASCAR is right. NASCAR is right, but they should give him a path, or I have no opinion on the matter. That is the poll question. Right now, 48% saying he should not be allowed to race. 17% saying NASCAR is, or should be allowed to race. Sorry. 17% saying NASCAR is right, and NASCAR is right, but should give him a path is another 20%. And no opinion on the matter right now is 13%. So we'll keep that up as we keep going. And as that story was sort of dominating the day, then it came out later today. I saw it from Adam Stern that apparently Dale Jr., JRM or whatever, Kelly Earnhardt, they have something to announce at 3 or 4 o'clock tomorrow afternoon, and all kinds of speculation running rampant on that. You've seen oh God, how let me just think of all the rumors here. One rumor, Junior is coming back with the Bud 8 to run that. I don't think that one is going to happen. I don't think Junior A is going to run a cup race at Daytona. If he were to come back to the Cup Series, I don't think it would be at Daytona. So I don't think the Bud 8, because then you would have to take the number from Richard Childress to run the 8, so on and so forth. So I don't think that is going to happen. What's the other one? Martin Truex Jr. is going to run. He's signed Martin Truex Jr. That's who Martin Truex Jr. is going to run for in the Daytona 500. I don't think that is happening because Martin Truex Jr. has basically come out and said that he's going to run a deal for Toyota. It's going to be a Joe Gibbs car, basically no matter who actually puts their name on it, whatever they have to do to get it in the field. So I do feel like Martin Truex Jr. is racing the Daytona 500 and it's set up as a Toyota deal. So I doubt seriously that Junior has been able to sway him away, because I feel like that deal's been set up for months. So I don't think it's Martin Truex Jr. And there's some other theories out there, one of which being that maybe it's Connor Zilic, Connor Zilic, Trackhouse. Maybe Trackhouse is going to run, an extra car in the Daytona 500. You slap a junior name on it, let Connor Zilic run it. So there's that option out there. And there's another pretty popular option where Justin Allgaier is going to run an extra Spire car, and it's going to be, a JRM Cup car. And also Voppel, maybe one of Carson Voppel, maybe he is going to run basically the same deal. Maybe he would run a Spire car with the Bass Pro Shops deal as an extra deal. But either way, I feel like it's going to be Dale Jr. is entering a Cup car in Daytona. Who's going to drive it and what team he's entering with? That seems to be what's up on the table. And is it going to be a JRM car? Or is it going to be, JRM and title? I'm sure somebody else will put the car together. Or is it going to be Dirty Mo sponsoring like a Spire car? So I think all that all that will be cleared up tomorrow. So all kinds of speculation out there. Maybe we throw that as an extra poll question up later. I'm going to leave this poll question up for right now. And now I'm going to jump into the chat and see what you guys want to talk about. Let's see. Nathan Urick, what's up, my friend? NASCAR is making a business decision. Mike Wallace will not attract the attention and money that one of these famous, well-known IndyCar or F1 drivers will. It's about money. That could partially play into it. I think you do have a good point there. Maybe if he was, and nothing against Mike Wallace, he was a solid race car driver, but maybe if he was a bigger name, maybe the 5 years wouldn't matter. That's probably accurate. So maybe the 5-year thing is an excuse because he's not a bigger name. Not exactly apples to apples, because Elio Castroneves does have racing experience, even though it hasn't been in a stock car. Although the SRX series, you can argue that, but not on a super speedway or an intermediate. So he does have to run ARCA. But it is a fair statement to make that maybe if he is a bigger name, you don't get as much pushback. I think that's probably a fair thing to say. Did the rule book say you can't be idle for 5 years? Just another gray area enforcement by people who continue to pass off their own fan base, piss off their own fan base. I got you. I'm following you up, Harry. Yeah. So that's a good question, and that's one of the more frustrating things about NASCAR. Just about every other sport I can think of, you can read their rule book online, more or less. NASCAR, I don't think to this, as it stands right now, I don't think you can read NASCAR's Cup Series rule book online. I could be wrong about that, but I don't think they've made it public yet. Last time I checked, I don't think it was public. Elise, what's up, my friend? Good to see you on here. What's up, Lanes? Mike Wallace was pretty decent on big tracks back in his prime. He was a very good plate racer, no doubt about it. Mika Sicki, 09 for Phoenix Racing. He always did good things in that. So agreed. But I can see both sides of it, but it is a weird situation when you've had people around. A lot of people are pointing to the age. I don't think the age really plays into it so much, because they've had older drivers race before. I think it's more or less the inactivity aspect of it. I think they don't really care how old you are, as long as you can still get it done. I know Morgan Shepherd raced well into I think he raced into his 70s, if I'm not mistaken, or close to him. So I don't think the age is necessarily the biggest issue there. Will Buxton, Townsend Bell, and the mayor of Hinchtown, James Hinchcliffe, will be in the Fox broadcast for IndyCar this year. That's pretty cool. Good group of. I'm not super expert on IndyCar, but I recognize all those names. So I feel like that's going to be a pretty strong booth. I think it needs to be noted, Mike Wallace has had a heart attack and a bypass operation in the past few years. At his advanced age with a major health reliability, that could play into it too. So I forgot to bring that up. So appreciate you bringing that up. At least he does have some health complications, so he would at least have to go through a physical and get examined by a doctor to see if he's even fit to compete. And all of this stuff would take time, so that might be part of it too. He's not going to get into the Daytona 500 just because he announced at such a late date. They couldn't get all these things possibly in place by the time the race rolls around. So that's a fair. The health issue is a fair thing to bring up as well. Bumblebee saying that's a great point, Ellie, especially with the speeds they run at Daytona. Yeah, for sure. IndyCar did a promo for Fox with Joseph Newgarden. And yeah, it got everybody sort of up in a tizzy. I didn't really make that much of a big deal about it, because to me, and the tizzy I'm talking about, NASCAR fans got upset because they feel like IndyCar is getting more promotion and better commercials than NASCAR is. And they are right. They're not wrong about that. But I feel like the reason that that's happening is Fox is trying to build that audience. They've already built the NASCAR audience over a period of time. They're going to spend more money for the first 2 or 3 years on IndyCar to try to build that audience up. And then after about 2 or 3 years, you're going to see it level off. IndyCar and NASCAR will probably get the same level of coverage. I thought a very good point was brought up in the comments section because I talked about this in another video where somebody said, "When's the last time you saw Fox do an NHRA commercial?" Because they do NHRA stuff too, and they never promote the NHRA. So NASCAR fans, it could be worse. We could get the NHRA treatment. So it's always it depends on what side of the yard you're standing on as to whose grass is greener. Rosie, hey, Mr. BB in chat. Happy Tuesday. What's up, Rosie? Hope you're doing good out there. Yeah, it's not a it's not a case of they just don't want him out there. It's not in the best he's not in the best health himself. Yeah, for sure. Like I said, as much as I would love to put on the tinfoil hat and go full tinfoil hat, I do think that the NASCAR has a good point in this particular deal. So NASCAR has a good foot to stand on. They've got a good case in this one, so I understand where they're coming from. But for me, it sucks not to see Mike Wallace race just because of the backstory behind it. But if it's not safe to race, like it's not safe to race. But I do feel like you could give him a path. Like you gotta pass a physical. You gotta get cleared health wise. Maybe race an Arca race, and then you could race in the Cup race. I feel like that would have been fair too. Possibly if you could get all that set up, like you would have to put a doctor in place and all that good stuff. So we'll see. We'll see. Does Mike still hold a NASCAR license as Perry Earl? I think you have to renew them every year. So I would say if he hasn't raced in 5 years, he doesn't have one. And there's different NASCAR licenses too. So Cup Series license, I would say probably does not have a Cup Series license. If he hasn't, it would be odd if he was getting one every year, even if he knew he wasn't going to race. So I would say odds are he doesn't have a Cup license anymore. Howdy from the Great White North. Go Bills, go, says Robin Marks. Bills Mafia in the house. So hopefully the Bills get it done for you, Robin. And what's up, Canada as well. Algar running the 500 for JRM. Could be. Could be running for Spire. That seems to be a really popular rumor out there. I don't know. I'm just going to wait for it to pop off. But the Algar Spire thing seems to have a lot of people believing in it. I don't know if the stuff that I've seen, I wouldn't say are necessarily the most reliable sources, but you do see a lot of people talking about Algar and Spire. So maybe that is the deal. Maybe that is the deal. We'll find out tomorrow. Bumblebee saying what's up to Robin Marks. It was Elton Sawyer Mike talked to. BB says Bumblebee. On the competition side, it was Elton Sawyer, but I think Kenny Wallace was saying he talked to somebody in corporate, and then Elton Sawyer would be the guy on the competition side who was like, "Nah, we're not gonna make it happen." So we'll see. If at least that was my understanding of it, but I don't know. Could be wrong on that, but either way, it just seems like it was a miscommunication. So unfortunate all the way around. But hopefully, if Mike Wallace wants to do it, he just takes all the steps and he does it next year. So hopefully he doesn't give up on it if he really wants to do it. Hey, good evening, Bologna Burger and everyone out there. The rumor going around is Dale Jr. is going to announce Cletus McFarland is going to drive his car in the Daytona 500s as William Wagaman. That would be maximum press coverage right there. No doubt about that. Dirty Death. I hate it for Mike, but I do understand where NASCAR is coming from. I thought he may be speaking out of turn when he said he was approved. Very reminiscent of the Brandon Brown situation with the crypto car. Yeah, it does have a lot of, and I think I'm pretty sure it was Eric that brought that up. So good analysis there from Eric. I want to give him his props on that. Let's go. BB says Russell Dominguez. What's up, Russell? Good to see you on here as always, my friend. Gets Mike Wallace gets screwed, but NASCAR bent over for the IndyCar driver, says Joseph Wooten. There's certainly a lot of people that feel that way. I do feel like because of the health issues and because he has been inactive for 5 years, NASCAR can make the argument the other way. But I understand the people that are like, hey, the IndyCar guys never drove this car either, so you can make a lot of people are making that argument. And he's allowed to run the Arca race. And if he does good in the Arca race, he's allowed to run in the Cup Series. So That's why I'm saying maybe the best thing was to give Mike Wallace a path, like get cleared physically from a doctor, and then race the Arca race. And if nothing happens, I mean, maybe that would be more fair. I don't know. I don't know necessarily the protocol for this particular deal. I can't, as far as this goes, maybe who was it? Jennifer Jo Cobb would be the most recent one that I can think of that something like this happened to. And that was super interesting because she had been fairly active, I felt like. So this isn't the first time it's happened, but it's the only other time I can remember has been Jennifer Jo Cobb. Aloha BB, I lost all respect for Mike Wallace when they asked him about Patty Moise won the poll, and he was second. They were asking him, "What are you going to do?" And he said, "I'm going to pull off. I'm going to pull off her spoiler and put her in the wall." Says Dennis Gillespie, and then he went and proceeded to do it. It just depends on who you ask about that. I've heard some people saying he meant that as a joke, and then he actually just lost control of the car. Like, I don't know. It just depends on who you ask. But yeah, definitely not a good look either way. And definitely not a good deal for sure. He's had a couple controversies in his career. I think I mentioned the 2020 controversy at the top of this one as well. Dale Jr. might have contacted Martin Truex Jr. and was like, "Why not run Xfinity for me?" I'll also put Ryan in some races in the 9, but I agree, probably not leaving Toyota. Yeah, like if Martin Truex Jr. hadn't come out and said that he's running the deal and it's going to be with Toyota no matter what, I would lean toward giving that some credibility. But the fact that I'm with you, the fact that he's come out and said that he's with Toyota already, I feel like the Toyota deal is pretty much written in stone for Martin Truex Jr. And the big rumor there, of course, it's going to be Tricon Garage that they use to run the Joe Gibbs car, basically. Jeffrey Earnhardt driving for JRM, says Delmer Kaufman. Now, to me, that would be the move. Like, run Jeffrey Earnhardt in the car, run whatever Earnhardt affiliated number that you can get. I think what's available? Could probably run the 38, I would imagine. 38. You could run that. Maybe the 81. I think Martin Truex Jr. ran the 81 some in the Busch Series, Taco Bell, if I'm not mistaken. Delmar Kaufman running for the 500 for JRM. Illuminati confirmed, says Bumblebee. Sorry, it was Elton Sawyer. Says Dennis Gillespie. Did you see the new 2025 Monte Carlo SS yet? It looks great. If I had to guess, I believe that's what the new body Chevy is going to be putting on the track very soon. Well, Monte Carlo would definitely be a welcome nameplate. I think at one point, I don't know if it still is or not, but at one point I know the Monte Carlo was the winningest nameplate in NASCAR. Lovey Barkley saying, "What's up to everyone?" Morgan Shepherd would always show up at the local skating rink when they would come to Rockingham. Pretty cool. 14 years old, skating next to a Cup driver. It is pretty cool. Pretty cool. Morgan Shepherd did it for a long, long time. No doubt about it. Hey, may not remember this, but how about I've been calling Parker Kligerman getting a big TV job? I knew when Big Machine said they begged him to stay, but he said he had a once in a career opportunity. Yeah, so for sure. I forget it. It's Parker Kligerman, Adam Alexander, and somebody else. That's who's going to be the WB. That's who's doing the WB stuff. I can't off the top of my head. I can't remember who the other one is, but I don't know. I'm not a big, huge TV announcer guy, so I forgot about that story. But that is also a story as well. The WB announced their announcer lineup. Hello, BB and fans. BB chemo day running late. Sorry to hear that, Michael Honeychuck. So hopefully everything goes well for you, and we'll keep you in our thoughts and prayers. Hopefully you get through that as good as possible. It's a rough deal. I've had some family members go through it, and it's not a good thing at all. But hopefully you pull through and it goes into remission and never comes back for you. Do you think NASCAR would have allowed Rusty Wallace to return to Daytona in 2015 and run the 500 10 years away from the track? Most likely, just because, name recognition and stuff like that. They would have made him probably run an ARCA race or something like that. And like I said, part of this boils down to it was a last minute deal. So maybe that's part of the reason Mike Wallace didn't have a path. and Elio does, because Elio announced so much earlier that he was given a path. So all kinds of factors come into this for sure, and I see both sides of it. But it doesn't make it suck any less for Mike Wallace, and it doesn't make NASCAR any less right for enforcing their rules, even if they enforce their rules sort of haphazardly at times. I think that's fair to say as well. Dirty Mo Media sponsors Kyle with the number 8 font on Earth 2, says Aaron Flynn. That would be pretty wild. Here's a guy that could be the next Bologna Burger, says in between the lanes. Sorry, but nothing about that new IndyCar commercial made me want to watch IndyCar anymore, says Joseph Wooten. Yeah, I mean, it's not going to be for everybody, but I feel like a lot of people did like the commercial. I thought the commercial was done pretty good. Indy 500 is looking great right now. The Daytona 500 is looking great right now, says Lovey Barkley. Isn't Elton Sawyer married to Patty Moise? He is could still be holding a grudge, says Delmer Kaufman. I think he's married to her. I'm pretty sure. So that could play into it, but you never know. Either way, NASCAR has a good position to stand on, regardless of grudge or whatever else you want to say. How long before Ricardo is up to speed in a Cup car, says Chris? Oh, that's a good question, but I do agree with you. I do think we will see Daniel Ricciardo in a Cup car this season for Project 91, most likely. Jamie Schweitzer, sorry, late to the party. All good, my friend. The whole Mike Wallace deal at Atlanta was with Shauna Robinson, had nothing to do with Patty or Elton. Lovey Barkley, Derek Hope was 62 when he ran the 500 in 2020 or 2021. At least I think it was Derek Hope, says Lovey Barkley. So there you go. We have had somebody in their 60s run at a high speed racetrack. Let's see. Cope had a Cup license at the time too. So there you go. Yeah, Cup. I think he was only 3 years out from his last Cup Series start. So not necessarily the same amount of time. Elio went to the Arca test and is scheduled to race the Arca race at Daytona, and he still competes full time at a top level in motorsport. Mike Wallace is 65 with heart problems and hasn't raced in 5 years. That's a fair statement for sure. Okay, then ignore my comment. Hi, Bumblebee. Taco Bell, good stuff, says in between the lanes. Yep. I want to say it was a purple and white car when he ran the 81. He ran some other 81 cars too. I think there was a KFC back when KFC, Taco Bell, Pizza Hut, but I do remember the KFC and Taco Bell car in the Busch series circa, I don't know, the 03 to 07 body style, I want to say. But I could be misremembering that. Everyone's favorite driver, Haley Deegan, driving for Junior, says Joseph Wooten. I think she's done with the Cup stuff. Let's see. David Gilliland on Sirius XM last week said, and Mike Bagley asked him about the Bagman and Tricon and Martin Truex Jr. He completely dodged the question. Seems like there's something there. Yeah, it seems that's another. I don't know if it's for sure or not, but I hear that rumor quite often that it's going to be Tricon Garage. So we'll see. We'll see what plays out as far as that goes. And a lot of people on the inside that are designing cars, they've leaked a lot of prospective schemes, you should say, and it's got Martin Truex Jr. and Tricon Garage on them. What do they call them? Just for fun schemes or whatever, just for funsies. But it seems like they know something too, and they're gently trying to tell us that it's going to be Tricon Garage. Jamie McMurray is thank you, Jamie Mack. Jamie McMurray is the other one that I forgot there. Appreciate you there, Ryan. So yeah, that's going to be a pretty solid booth. Should do good things. Parker Kligerman, really good. Jamie McMurray, a lot of people have been asking for him to do play-by-play for a long time, and you know what you're getting there with Adam Alexander. So should be a good, solid booth there for the CW, which is being provided by NASCAR. NASCAR is doing it for them. So hopefully it all works out over there. Have you heard anything about Corey LaJoie? Maybe on the Amazon broadcast this year? I have not heard anything about Corey LaJoie, to be totally honest with you. Other than, he's probably not going to be driving for Rick Ware Racing. After that, I really haven't seen his name pop up anywhere. So it's going to be interesting to see what he does next season for sure. Parker running Daytona truck race for Henderson Racing, says in between the lanes. Yeah, he's got a deal worked out with them. It seems like whenever he wants to run a truck, they will provide him one. And Henderson, always pretty good, solid stuff. So he's always sitting in something he can win with when he drives for them. Earth 2, Mark Martin competes in the 2024 All-Star race. driving the Aaron's Dream Machine. So Earth 2 is a year behind us, Jamie Schweitzer. I knew what you meant, though. 2025 All-Star race, no doubt about it. Good drivers with a big fan base. Or Earth 2 has 2 All-Star races, and well, it's already 2025, so that doesn't work either. Good driver with a big fan base crossing over, grows the sport, says Brickyard Brickhead. For sure, for sure. And that, like, let's not pretend like that doesn't have something to do with it. Let's see. It's Adam Alexander, Jamie McMurray, and Parker Kligerman, says Stephen Emilio Jr. Daniel Ricciardo versus Daniel Suarez. That would be a pretty good at a road course. I feel like that would be a pretty good matchup to watch for Trackhouse. I didn't know Elio was still full time in Indy. He's not, but he makes enough starts, and he was racing SRX last season, so he's been active in other motorsports. And Mike Wallace spoke directly over the phone with President, or at least to my knowledge, he's not still full time. I think he just does part time IndyCar stuff. And Mike Wallace spoke directly over the phone with President Steve Phelps, and then Elton Sawyer called him and told him no. Essentially, says Stephen Emilio Jr. That's the story. Basically, I heard. I didn't hear Steve Phelps' name exactly, but I figured it was probably Steve Phelps. So that's what I heard. He talked with Steve Phelps, and then he got the call from Elton Sawyer. And Steve Phelps was basically like, "Good luck, can't wait to see you out there." And then Elton Sawyer called him and said, "Hey, you know what? We can't let you race because of the 5-year deal." So that's the story that I heard. So I think that pretty much, to me, I think that's how it went down. But who knows? Who knows? Only people that know are Mike Wallace, Steve Phelps, and Elton Sawyer. Dale Jr. better make sure whoever he puts in the Cup car that they have prior approval to run. That is a fair question. That is a fair question. So that makes me lean toward Justin Allgaier because some of the younger guys like Voppel and Zilich, they might not have the green light. Although maybe they're racing in Arca. I haven't looked at. There's so many people racing in Arca. I can't even keep up with it in my head. All the people racing in the Arca Daytona race. Dale Jr., I just read that one. Elio has experience in IROC, etc. He won his 4th Indy 500 in the past 5 years. Like Mike, I like Mike, but I understand NASCAR. I wonder if they would deny Rusty, though, says Lewis Kemp. It's a great question, man. It's I feel like if it was Rusty, they would say you can't race, but they would give him they would give him a path to get there just because he's such a big name. So that's where I stand on, okay, you can deny Mike Wallace the opportunity, but at least give him a path. Like, you got to get medically cleared. You got to race the Arca race. And if you don't embarrass yourself in the Arca race, and if you get medically cleared, then we'll allow you to run in the Daytona 500. I feel like that's a happy medium, like a happy compromise that you could come up with. But it is what it is. I'm not NASCAR, and they definitely don't care about my opinion. Let's see. Bubba Wallace's McDonald's car is bussing again, says Lovey Barkley. I haven't seen it yet, but McDonald's is either hit or miss. As long as it doesn't have, I don't know why 2311 is so in love with that primer gray. As long as it doesn't have primer gray on it, I feel like I'll probably like it. Jamie McMurray did a couple Xfinity races in the booth. Says in between the lanes. Yeah, and a lot of people were like, hey, he did a great job. We would love to see him full time. And I think that's where it sort of came from. And Jamie McMurray, even at that time, was hitting the thumbs up button and retweeting some of those, hey, we want to see Jamie McMurray do play-by-play in the booth. So he was definitely on board with it. So great to see him get this opportunity. Any idea who will wave the green flag or drive the pace car to start the Daytona 500 next month, says Jamie Schweitzer. I don't know if they've announced it yet or not. I feel like I might have seen that, but I don't know. It might have been for the Clash at the Coliseum. I feel like somebody's been announced, and I can't remember which race it was for. But I don't know. I'll have to look into that. They have ketchup on the fries this time, says Lovey. Something tells me the Xfinity broadcast is going to be mostly remote. No way Jamie Mack is going to be on the road every week with that schedule, says Dirty Def. I hope not. Man, I hope not. My bad, spoke out of turn. I know Elio competes every year in the Indy 500. Elio co-owns Meyer Shank Racing as well, says in between the lanes. I have an idea to make remote booths better. Just have one screen that's a constant overhead of the track, and that way the booth can see the entire track and react to things not on camera. Yeah, you definitely, I agree with you on that. No matter what, even when you're live, depending on the racetrack, because some racetracks don't have like the greatest where the booth is at, might not be the greatest view. There's some blind spots. There should be like an overhead where you can see everything on the track, even if it's like a blimp view, like just a straight down. I'm on board with that. I do think that will help out quite a bit. And look, the remote booth is a fairly new thing. Let them get a few runs at it to smooth it out. But where the remote booth is at right now, it's not great. So I will say that. Let's see. I got tickets to see T.G. Shepherd next week. You could not watch a race in the 80s he wasn't a part of. Great singer, too, says Elise. That's crazy. I didn't even know he was still, even know he was still getting down. But yeah, so T.G. Shepherd, if you remember the original Folgers car, not Mark Martin, but the 25 Folgers car, sometimes the 52 that used to race at Hendrick between Ken Schrader, Tim Richmond. Who else drove that thing? Or Rick Hendrick, I feel like, drove it one time as well. Jimmy Means. Was it Jimmy Means? I think Jimmy Means drove it one time. I don't know. They had a few people drive it. Anyway, T.G. Shepherd coffee machine, Folgers car back in the day. That was the biggest one I remember because I used to have a hat that my dad's best friend got me because he worked there at the time. T.G. Shepherd coffee machine. And it was a Tim Richmond hat at the time. But for sure, cool to see that he's still touring and getting the job done though. That's pretty awesome, and I'm glad somebody else knows who T.G. Shepherd is. So there you go. The bizarre thing that Kenny Wallace said on his show that they told Mike he couldn't run any of the 3 series in 2025, says Dirty Death. Yeah, that's super interesting. So maybe that's because it's a health issue, and also maybe he misunderstood what they said, because I don't necessarily know that that's verified. I just know that it's like the Daytona 500. So as this thing plays out and more information comes out, we'll see what happens. But it is, if that part of it is true, that is very strange. That is very strange. So that part of it definitely makes you scratch your head. And that's where if you wanted to put the tinfoil hat on, that's where you could put the tinfoil hat on and be like, they won't let me race anything. So that part of it definitely fair. TG, I love them all, says Dirty Death. Should the All-Star race be held at a different track every year? I think so, and I think the championship race should be held at a different track every year as well, for sure. Best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup, says In Between the Lanes, no doubt about it. And they just re-released that car. Lionel did a couple different versions of it. So if you actually want to buy that car, really good looking, sharp car, and it's also in that Chevrolet Monte Carlo body style that everybody likes. So they did recently re-release that car. One is a Ken Schrader, one is a Tim Richmond, for sure. So if you want to check one out, they got those there. And if you can see that Alex Bowman car right there, it kind of looks like that's what Alex Bowman was throwing back to it. So it looks similar to that one, but way better. Let's see. He's 81. Still sounds good live too, says Elise. That's also really awesome, because sometimes people lose their voice, or the tone of their voice changes as they age. But the fact that he can still put on a live show and can still hit all the notes and still has the energy to get up there and still wants to get up there and do it is the other thing. So good for him. That's super awesome. So I'm gonna have to go check that out when I hop off of here, see if I can find some stuff on YouTube. The C is over the remote broadcast. It needs to go away. Says Joseph Wooten. Yeah, I think a lot of people are over. I think most of the fans are over the remote booth as well. But according to Jamie Little, it's not going anywhere. So they need to make it better if they're going to keep using it. That's for sure. Did you see Ross and Allgaier at the Tampa Bay Lightning game this weekend? I didn't see that, but I did see Joey Logano at the Magic game, where he got Paolo Banchero's jersey. They did, I guess, like a jersey swap or something like that. So that was pretty cool. And it shows you, because Banchero is close to 7 feet tall, 6'9" or 6'10", I want to say. It shows you how tall Joey Logano is, because Joey Logano is not necessarily dwarfed by a guy that's about 6'10", if I remember correctly from Duke. I think at Duke he was listed at 6'10", but I could be wrong about that. Earth 2, Bubba's McDonald's sponsored car has an image of broken McDonald's ice cream machine on the hood, says Jamie Schweitzer. That is a very frustrating thing, to go to McDonald's and the ice cream machine, unfortunately, always feels like it is broken. That is definitely a very irritating thing. Didn't Michael McDowell run a throwback to that Folger scheme at the All-Star race last year, I believe? I think it was 2 years ago. and I think it was Mark Martin's Folgers car that he ran a throwback for. Bubba Wallace has run a throwback in the Xfinity series when he drove for Roush. He ran a number 6 throwback to Mark Martin. So yeah, Mark Martin's car has been thrown back too as well. There's never really, I might be wrong, but I don't think there's ever been an ugly Folgers car. They even had a green one for decaf that Benny Parsons drove, if I'm not mistaken. Let's see. He did. Oh, so there you go. I should have just read one line down. Bumblebee confirms he did at the All-Star race. Let's see. I'm a TG fan. Do you want to go? Do you want to go to heaven and only one you are classics? I tried to read that too fast. Sorry about that, Dirty Death. Michael Strahan, I believe, is the pace car driver. The TG stands for too good, says Brickyard Brickhead. So there you go. Michael Strahan is going to be the pace car driver. So maybe that's what I saw. I watched a bunch of old highlights earlier, and Alex Bowman is a menace on super speedways, says Lovey Barkley. He could be. I think if you look at enough highlights, anybody can be a menace on super speedways. A lot of times the guys that are really good at super speedways are also menaces on super speedways. It's funny how that works out. For whatever reason, they reward the most aggressive driver, and that can, Ricky Stenhouse, for example, that can either be a good thing or a bad thing, just depends on how the race plays out. So, yeah, for sure. Benny Parsons said he did the decaf car as a joke, LOL, but I'd stick, but it sticks given that he's old, says Bumblebee. TG stands for the greatest, says Lovey Barkley. McDonald's out of the Chicago street race, but still with 23-11. Aluminum hat is on, says Aaron Flynn. Yeah, I don't know. Like they pulled out of the, I feel like they pulled out of the Chicago race because profits probably aren't where they want to be right now. So they're like, we've already got money in NASCAR putting our sponsor on cars. We don't need to sponsor a race. To me, that makes the most sense. So I don't know. That's where I stand on it, but who knows? NASCAR corporate didn't give an official reason for why they did what they did. So it's all guesswork on my behalf. Need a throwback to Stroh's beer. The Mark Martin scheme, says Delmer Kaufman. That was a really good car too. That was the one, I think that was the one he had right before the Folgers car, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe like a 86, 87, 88, somewhere in there. When was the first line of Racing Champions? Because I feel like the first line of Racing Champions, he was the number 6 Stroh's Light. Obviously, they didn't put Stroh's Light on it, but I think he was like a blue number 6. And then the next run of Racing Champions, he was in the Folgers car. If I remember, I don't know. It's been a long time ago. Let's see. Tommy Baldwin Jr. Joining Freddie Kraft on Door Bumper Clear. That should be fun. It's an interesting lineup they've got going next season. Door Bumper Clear should be good in 2025, says Lovey Barkley. It's going to be interesting to see how people receive it. Like, I wonder if people are excited about it or I wonder if they're mad about it. But it's going to be interesting to see how it is received next year. I'm going to watch it. I'm going to give it a fair shake. So hopefully everybody else does too. So it's Corey LaJoy. No longer a Cup driver in 2025, says Jamie Schweitzer. I don't know. I don't think he's got a Cup offer. So I would say odds point to no, because I think everybody was assuming he was going to drive the Rick Ware car. And when it came out that he's probably not driving the Rick Ware car, I don't think there's any other opportunities, at least full time, out there for him. Stroh's came back a few years ago. You can buy it up north now, says Bumblebee. That's interesting because I've never seen it. I've actually never seen it. So I actually had to look it up back in the day. I was like, Stroh's Light. Like I didn't know if it was a heater or if it was a beverage, but I knew it was something adult because of the light in it. Okay, Sirius XM. They asked who was the best all around driver in NASCAR, and everyone said Larson. But my question is, should his bad super speedway record at least be factored in? Says Dirty Duff. It just depends on how you want to quantitate it. Like you can make up any algorithm. Do you weigh wins? Do you weigh good at each track, average finish at each track? Like it just depends on what you want to look at. Like there's any number of ways to calculate it. But I think when you calculate it, it'll usually come up about the same 5 or 10 drivers. And best is subjective. So it is what it is. It just depends on the algorithm or the formula you use to come up with your number. And when you make that formula, there's human error in that formula as to what you value. So it's one of those things. I don't believe in better, just different. Just depends on the situation. So obviously, I would say he's got to be in the top five. Uh, Denny Hamlin, you would have to put him probably in the top five. Chase Elliott, I feel like you'd have to put him in the top five. William Byron, Christopher Bell. I'm going to name more than top five, like Joey Logano, Ryan Blaney. I mean, I don't know. Like you could go down the list, but I feel like those guys you got to mention in there all the time. Everybody from Hendrick, everybody from Joe Gibbs Racing. So it just depends on how you do your formula format and all that good stuff. Ever try Talladega beer? Says Chris. I never even heard of it till right now, so that's a new one on me. And actually, I'm gonna write it down. I didn't even know that was a deal. Talladega beer. I've had Michael Waltrip's beer. His Vominos is really good. So if you like Michael Waltrip and you like his beverage company, check out Vominos. I think that's my favorite one. Mark drove the Stroh's car in '88 and '89, Folgers in '90 and '91. Then Valvoline through 2000 when the Big Blue Pills took over. Old Pfizer, the Blue Diamond Pfizer car. I think McDonald's dropped Chicago sponsorship because NASCAR won't likely be racing Chicago Street Race after this year. Yeah, and like I said in the video, the other factor could be it's on TNT and it's not on NBC. Like it could be any number of factors. You never know. It could be all those factors. You never know. On one hand is NASCAR, on the other hand is Jordan and NASCAR, says Aaron Flynn. Hey, there you go. That's a fair statement too. Going to be interesting without Brett or TJ. Is Casey Boat still on the show or not? I think Casey Boat's gone too. I didn't see where she was coming back. I think I saw somebody saying she's leaving too. So it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting how it all plays out. But I will watch it when it starts back up. Is Cody Ware a 7-time champion on Earth too? He's in the running. He's in the running for sure. Him and Ty Dillon, they're putting up big numbers on Earth too. Mad respect to both of them because they're doing what any of us would love to be doing every weekend. So no harm meant by any of the comments here. Mail me some Stroh's lights, says Delmer Kaufman. Casey got replaced by Carson. Rusty Wallace was Boutte on super speedways, and he's still one of the best ever, says Bumblebee. In between the lanes, giving a thumbs up to Lovey Barkley. Rusty Wallace is old. Kyle Larson then says Lovey Barkley. They dismissed Reddick because he's not great at short tracks, but I'm like, what's the difference between that and Larson at super speedways? So if that, okay, I didn't have that context. So yeah, if you're going to dismiss Reddick because he's bad at short tracks, then yeah, you got to dismiss Larson because he's bad at super speedways. Yeah, there's no doubt about it. Like that's pretty chintzy. So I would have Reddick in my top 10 or top 5 as well. Like I feel like he's a next level talent, and give Carson Hocevar a couple years. He's gonna be in that top 5, top 10, in my opinion as well. Me, either BB, and I live 39 minutes from Talladega and never knew they had a beer. LOL says they're deaf. I didn't either, but I definitely wrote down Talladega. Let me finish it and put down Bruja. So there you go. Now I'll know what to Google. TG Shepherd and Talladega beer. It's going to be an interesting trip down the rabbit hole on the YouTubes here. Want to hop off of the YouTubes on this end. Let's see. How many cars will Brad K take take out in the 500? Says Tim Race. So yeah, Brad Keselowski, he's a good plate racer too, but he's also been known to take out a few cars too. So like I said, plate tracks, they reward and they punish the aggressive. So it just depends on how the race plays out. Billy Beer, Jimmy Carter's brother, made some money there, says Delmer Kaufman. I remember my parents talking about Billy Beer, but that's another one I never saw. They had a fake Billy Beer can in the refrigerator, and it was like a safe or something like that. Like it wasn't like a bank or anything like that. It was just like a safe, and you turned it. And you could store valuables in it. They had another one that was a Barbasol can that you could do like that. So I don't know if anybody remembers those from back in the day, but that's the only Billy Beer I ever saw. And I don't know, because I was a little kid. I picked it up and I was like, how come this thing never? I was like, how come nobody ever drinks this? So I picked it up and I shook it and I was like, oh, it's because it's another fake safe or whatever you want to call them. Did you win? Did your race win diecast of Kyle Busch and Austin Dillon arrive yet? Still waiting in between the lanes, unfortunately. Got a pick for the 500 yet, says Dirty Def. Kyle Busch. I'm going to pick Kyle Busch to win the Daytona 500. BB, who will retire first as a Cup driver next? Austin Dillon, Denny Hamlin, Kyle Busch, or Bad Brad? I'm going to go Denny Hamlin retires first out of that group. That's what I think. Kyle Busch for me, says in between the lanes, talking about Daytona, who's going to win the Daytona 500. So I'm going with in between the lanes as well. I think it's going to be Kyle Busch. 10 or more for Brad K in the 500. It says Dirty Def. So he thinks Brad's going to take out over 10 cars. He's going to cause at least one of the big ones. Keselowski, did I do that? Hopefully that was a good Steve Urkel. That's at least what it was trying to be there. So yeah, Keselowski, apparently a lot of people not having faith that Keselowski is going to give them a fair push. And I'll say this, if Keselowski and Joey Logano are pushing each other, you better go, because those two guys, when they get hooked up, they're ready to go. Like they get very aggressive when they're pushing each other. So that's going to be interesting to watch as well. I think Keselowski sparks a decent sized one around halfway through, probably 8 to 12. Yeah, hopefully, and I'll say this, hopefully whenever the cautions come out, it's not like last year where it turns into a fuel mileage race. So hopefully whenever the caution happens, it happens at a time that doesn't turn it into a fuel mileage race where they just ride around and save fuel, because that sort of hurt the Daytona 500 last year. So that's my only real hope for when the cautions come out, or my only real thoughts on cautions, I guess I should say. Iron City Beer from Pittsburgh, says Peril. I haven't had that one. I've had Victory Brew Pub. I've had Victory Brew Pub's V10. Try saying that really fast. And they've got some really good beers as well. But after you drink the V10, you really can't taste anything else, because the V10 is like some ridiculous volume, and you only need about 1 or 2, maybe 3 if you're hardcore. Yeah, V10 Brew Pub up there in Westchester, if I'm not mistaken. Visited that, and I visited Jake's Pub, Jake's Sports Bar, or whatever it's called. Really big, I guess, sports bar in Westchester. So shout out to the Westchester gang. And Jake's Bar. Had a good time there. 2008, I want to say, is when I visited that one. Maybe 2006. Had a blue T-shirt. It said Jake's Pub on it, or Jake's Bar. I can't remember. Anyway, that was a long detour to nowhere. Kyle Petty line right now. There, BB says in between the lanes. Did you pick KFB last year? Yeah, I'm going to pick him until he wins it. Like that's just sort of my deal. Not a bad pick. If it comes down to Brad K and KFB at the end, they make it to the finish line. Neither one wants to see the other one win. Yeah, there's a good chance that one will wreck the other. Like it's just super serious between those two. I wouldn't be surprised if all 400 cars DNF either, says Lovey Barkley. I wouldn't be surprised if anybody DNF'd. I mean, it's Daytona. It's the biggest race of the year. Everybody's been waiting to get back in the seat. It's just one of those deals, especially when it gets down to the wire. It's probably going to get pretty wild. Eric Jones for the 500. I like that pick, Delmer. And hopefully Legacy Motor Club gets it together for next season. I like that Prime scheme for Chase Elliott. Amazon Prime scheme does look really good. I will say that. Which Cup rookie in the Cup Series places highest overall in the season standings, says Sir Wood Rooster. I'm going to say Shane Van Gisbergen, and I'm going to say it because of this. I feel like he's going to win a road course race, and I don't know if any of the other drivers are going to win a race. So that's automatically just going to put him higher. So that's my rationale behind SVG there. Let's see. Joe Logano will win the Daytona 500, being the first to lock into the playoff spot, inspired from all the hate he got from winning last year's championship, says Jamie Schweitzer. I could definitely see that, and that would definitely be, if you're a Logano fan, that would be like icing on the cake, because then nobody could say anything to you. You could literally tank the whole season just doing R&D for the playoffs or whatever. Did you ever make it out to the Winston-Salem Museum when it existed? If so, how would you rate it, says Dirty Def. I went out there, had a good time, like really, really great people out there. I do have footage of it at some point. I will get that video done, hopefully, God willing, before I die. But yeah, I did get out there. I do have footage of it, and one day that video will be available. 2 out of 4 JGR cars meet the under junior as well, says Lovey Barkley. I would love to see Martin Truex Jr. win in a one-off in the 500, even though not the best super speedway driver. Yeah, it would be pretty cool. Like if he won that, I feel like you got to walk off at that point. Like you got to be done. At least if it was me, I would be. It wouldn't be a NASCAR race without your scheduled weekly Rick Ware racing caution out of nowhere, says Lovey Barkley. They were a lot better last season though, so I gotta give them that. I gotta give them that. This year it was actually the John Hunter Nemechek. I feel like he was the one that was just a random caution. I feel like he was the random caution every race. Him and Ricky Stenhouse Jr. BB, will Pickle Todd win a race this year? I think he's got a good chance. It's hard to say, but I think he's got a really, really solid chance. Josh Berry for the win after Brad K takes out most of the field and a green-white checker. Yeah, I will say this. Don't sleep on Josh Berry. He's basically in Penske equipment, and I think you're going to see some good things out of the 21 car next season. He'll restore it to Ryan Blaney levels of success when Ryan Blaney was there. Lovey Barkley saying, what's up to OJ? OJ saying, what's up? I got SVG at COTA, third race. I noticed Junior Motorsports didn't put SVG in the car at COTA to make it easier for Zilich to win and get a spot in the playoffs. Yeah, definitely a wise move on their behalf. Zilich is good enough, though, that I don't know necessarily that it would be, like the worst thing ever. So I think it would be interesting if they raced each other. But yeah, definitely helps him out for him not to be in the field for sure. KFB for the win in the 500. That's who I'm going with too. BB, will Ty Gibbs finally get his first win, says OJ and Toothpaste. It took what? Chase Elliott took Chase Elliott 3 years, right? William Byron was close to 3 years as well. I think Kyle Larson was right at the 3-year mark as well. If I'm not mistaken, I might be misremembering at least one of those. So yeah, I'll say third year. Good chance that Ty rocking Randall Gibbs gets that first dub. I can see Ty being suspended for actions on the track sometime in this upcoming season. That would be wild. Because, you reset if you got to get a waiver. So what if he wins a race, gets suspended, has to reset, and still misses the playoffs? That would be a wild storyline. Not the only driver I could see that necessarily happen to, but that would be a wild storyline if it happens to him or anybody else in the season. That would be pretty interesting. Win 101 coming for the Wood brothers in 2025, says Delmar Kaufman. 2.5 years for Elliott to get a win. So 2.5 years. So yeah, Ty Gibbs, I would put him probably right on that schedule as well. I can't wait for KB to lose the 500 just because of all the hype around him. And we're back to the second half of 2023, says Lovey Barkley. Let's see. Which Cup team will have tech issues at Daytona pre-race and have to go to the back, says Sir Wood Rooster. I'm going to say somebody in Spire because that's where Rodney Childers is at. So he's going to be pushing it to the absolute maximum. So I would say Spire probably has the best bet. Hendrick cars, I wouldn't put it past them. They like to really, really trim out at Daytona. I think Toyota will be good because Toyota just focuses on race speed. I don't think they really care about qualifying as much. Who else likes to trim out and push it? Those will be the two off the top of my head. Probably Spire and because of Rodney Childers and Hendrick would be the ones the ones that I would worry about. BB, if you got a free ticket to the Mexico race, would you go? Says OJ and Toothpaste. It depends on how much money I had at that moment. So, in theory, yes. BB, will Riley Herbst make the playoffs this year? Says OJ and Toothpaste. It's hard to say. He's a really good plate racer, so I could see him winning a plate race. Outside of that, I think it's going to be a long shot, but that's he's in good equipment though, so I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see. It's going to be really hard for a rookie. I would say outside of a plate race, he probably doesn't make the playoffs, but I do think he is going to surprise people because a lot of people think he can't drive, and I think he's worked on his craft, and I think he's gotten a lot better than people think. I'm not saying he's going to be the next, Jeff Gordon or anything like that, but I think he's going to surprise people, in my opinion. Sir Wood Rooster, I'm guessing probably Denny Hamlin. Will it be Long Beach in place of Chicago in 2026? That's a great question. I don't know. It seems like Roger Penske wants to do a double date, but I don't think he wants to do that double date with NASCAR on Long Beach. But it's going to be interesting. Maybe a Rockingham or something like that takes the Chicago place. Maybe they go back to Chicagoland. Like it's no telling. It's anything's in NASCAR's bag at this point. Who wins the Clash? Says Dirty Death. Hmm. That's a good question. Maybe that's like a Joey Logano is really good at first time people visit a track. Kyle Busch is really good first time somebody visits a track. Kyle Larson's pretty good for the first time somewhere. I would probably say those three. They have pretty good luck whenever the cars visit a track for the first time. Um, I wouldn't sleep on Bubba Wallace. I feel like he's a really good flat track car, and he's got some experience at Bowman Gray. There's a lot Ross Chastain. I wouldn't sleep on him. I feel like that's his type of track. So I would say a combination of those guys. Let's see. Fords will be fast at Daytona, says Delmer Kaufman. Oh yeah, they're going to be fast everywhere. I feel like this is going to be a Ford Toyota year for sure. I feel like Chevrolet is finally going to feel the age of the Camaro, but I could be wrong on that. But I feel like it's going to be a Ford Toyota year. BB, what are your top five Cup teams? Hendrick would be four of them, and then throw in. I'm going to do six because Hendrick is like four. Then throw in whoever you want to throw in from Penske, reigning champion. You got to give it to Joey Logano right now, or you could throw in Blaney. He's the previous champion to Logano. And then whoever I would say Christopher Bell is probably the best, or Tyler Reddick would be your best Toyota driver. So those would be the six best teams, or four best teams, five best teams, or whatever. Let's see. My Clash pick would probably be a Ford or Toyota. Seems JGR and Penske have been better on tracks that need mechanical grip. Yeah, that's probably a fair statement. Yeah, so I probably should have thrown Denny Hamlin in there as well. So can't sleep on Denny Hamlin at a track like that as well. Did you get your Flow subscription? Says Camaro 50. Not yet, but I need to get on it. Need to get on it. Need to cancel. I need to cancel a couple of things and then pick up Flow. Cash winner, I'm guessing, will be the Watermelon Man. Clash winner, I'm guessing, will be the Watermelon Man, says Jamie Schweitzer. I like that pick. I like that pick. Logano is going to win the Clash because it's a new race. I like that pick too. I like your rationale behind it. I hate to say it, but Denny will be tough, says Dirty Death. Yeah, definitely going to be a good track for Denny. I agree with you there 100%. Or Joey at the Clash, of course, says Jamie Schweitzer. I mean, individual teams, not whole cars. Yeah, I knew what you meant, but I got to talk about as a team. I just feel like the four cars at Hendrick are probably the best. I would say the four cars at JGR are right there with them, but JGR is sort of going through a youth movement right now. But definitely Christopher Bell, so I'll put him in there, and that would technically be five. But I'm going to put a sixth in there, and you got to pick. In my opinion, you got to pick one of the Penske cars, and that's why I said just rotate it, whether it be, you know, Joey Logano or Ryan Blaney. And you could also throw, you can make an argument in there for the 45 team over there at 2311 because they did win the regular season last year. So like that's what I'm saying. I feel like there's no better teams right now than the four cars at Hendrick, and then throw in the other guys. I do feel like those are the best cars. Like if you want to take out whichever you think is the lowest performing Hendrick car, and then throw in the other two. But I feel like you can't get right now any better equipment. Here's what I feel about, and this is why I say this about Hendrick. I feel like Hendrick Motorsports could be running Kias right now because that Chevrolet is so old. You look at every other Chevrolet team last season, and they were not good. I'm just going to come out and say it. They were not great. Chevrolet did not have a great year last year, except for Hendrick. Hendrick is the only reason Chevrolet even looked good last season, and that Camaro is just showing the age of that body style. So that's why I say Hendrick could be racing a Kia or whatever. I just feel like those four teams at Hendrick are on it right now. They're really good. And then, like I said, whichever of the Penske drivers you want to put in there of that group, and also whichever of the Toyota drivers, whether it be Tyler Reddick or Christopher Bell. I feel like that's why I say you got to have six, because I'm not counting. I'm counting each Hendrick team individually. So that's my rationale behind that. I know it's not like the popular answer. It's like the biggest, the biggest no duh answer or whatever. Or people would think you're copping out because you're doing Hendrick or whatever. But if you look at the performance of the other Chevrolet teams, it just shows you how good the Hendrick teams actually are. Because the other Chevrolet teams struggled mightily last season. At best, they were hit and miss. I feel like Trackhouse with Ross Chastain found something there at the very end, but other than that, I can't think of a Chevrolet team that was really just like, man, they're going to run top 10 every weekend. Let's see. Penske is underrated. I think they're the smartest team in the garage. Yeah, like they figured out this format, no doubt about it. Like people are like, "Oh, they don't run good every weekend." They're not, in my opinion, they're not trying to. They're taking certain races to R&D stuff, and they're winning. They're putting a lot of emphasis on winning the races that they want to win, which are obviously playoff races and certain races to get into the playoffs. Thoughts on wild card weekend? BB says in between the lanes. You don't want my thoughts because nothing I've picked so far has gone right, other than the Chiefs, I guess, and the Lions and the Ravens winning. So I don't know. We'll see. I thought for sure. I thought for all the money in the world that Minnesota and Tampa Bay would advance, but they didn't. So it shows what I know. So I don't know. No idea. No idea. Let's see. Thank goodness I stayed off the DK with my picks this week as well, or last week as well. Let's see who will make it to the Super Bowl. I got the Chiefs and the Lions, says OJ and Toothpaste. Not a clue in the world. Like that feels like a pretty safe bet though. Like that seems safe. But after my predictions from last weekend, I'm staying out of it. I have not done good on predicting football this year. Chase Elliott wins the Daytona 500, says Drifty Puddles. He's definitely got a good shot at it. I feel like that's a good pick. My homeboy going to make it 3 in a row, says OJ and Toothpaste. Kyle, did you know the legend of Buddy the dog? I did not. I have not heard that one, so I'll have to check that one out. The legend of Buddy the dog. Avalon Band. I'll have to check that one out. I hadn't heard that one just yet. Man, I would love to see Motor City Dan Campbell win the Super Bowl. I think that would be pretty popular win. I got Bill Elliott Jr. winning Bowman Gray. I could see that for sure too. BB, do you think Deion Sanders will be the next coach of the Dallas Cowboys? Says OJ and Toothpaste. If they give him, if they offered him enough money, he might as well go do it because he's going to catch flack either way. I don't think he'll stay at. I never thought he was going to stay at Colorado past his son's graduating. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. How crazy would it be if Ross won the 500? He may have a heart attack before he ever smashed the melon. I would also put AJ in that category. Celebration would be insane. I agree. I agree with that 100%. I like that pick. Bumblebee says OJ and Toothpaste. Jermaine Boyd, what's up, my man? Happy New Year's to you as well. OJ thumbs up, says B. I think Hendrick was also giving Spire a helping hand. Look at their performance is basically the same level as RCR. Yeah, no doubt about it. That's another thing. Like Spire was getting a good bit of information from Hendrick, and you could tell the races that they got the good setups. We'll put it to you that way. Notre Dame and Ohio State University for the college football championship on Monday night. I feel like that's going to be Ohio State all the way, but we'll see. We'll see what happens there. I've been wrong. I've been wrong about everything in college football too. So I might have just gifted the win to Notre Dame. Will there be a 6-cup race winner this year? If so, who's most likely? Larson would be a popular choice for that one. I'll tell you. So Larson, obviously. So, but I'll give you a couple of guys that could definitely do it, and they don't really get talked about as much. One would be William Byron. He's going to be a threat to do it every year. Another one would be Christopher Bell. I feel like Christopher Bell could win like 10 races and people would still be like, oh, he's an underdog. Like, I don't know. People just don't talk about him. I've tried to talk about him more, but it's just one of them things. Who's another person that could threaten for it? I could see Ross Chastain getting really hot and putting a string like that together. You could see Joey Logano getting really hot and putting a string together. Ryan Blaney's another guy I could see getting hot. We've seen Kyle Busch do it before. If he can dial it back to, 2018, 2015 Kyle Busch, you could definitely see that. So yeah, I feel like that's feel that's a good amount of drivers that could do it, and obviously there's more out there. Did I mention Chase Elliott? I feel like Chase Elliott could do it as well. Let's see. Didn't Alex Bowman win like 3 or 4 races one year? Anybody in Hendrick equipment has got a good chance of doing it. I asked Michael Waltrip about Talladega beer last summer. He says you can find it at Save Mart supermarkets in California, says Chris Viegas. A great point on Penske R&D. Some races, I think that's why you see them peak toward the end. Yeah, 100%. Because I feel like that's what the 48 car used to do back in the day. They would run really good the first half of the season. Then the second half of the season, they would because they already had their wins. You would see that they called it the summer slump, and I feel like that summer slump they were just doing R&D stuff to get ready for the 10 race chase back in the day. Denny Hamlin was at the Cotton Bowl between Ohio State versus the Texas Longhorns and said the Buckeyes are his team. Yeah, and in true Denny Hamlin fashion, even that was controversial. Like a lot of people either liked or didn't like that. MBM runs a Chevrolet. Let's see. MBM runs Chevy, so most likely Martin Truex Jr. won't be in the 66. The Gator in a Spire car sounds interesting, says Daryl Adams. Yeah, that seems to be a popular rumor. I don't know if it's any truth to it, but there's definitely a lot of people talking about that one for sure. Chase Elliott is supposed to start winning again. It's 2025. Oh yeah, so that's I guess you could pick Blaney as far as the top 5 because it is an even year. So or it's an odd year. I'm sorry, it's an odd year. So Joey Logano won't be good this year. So it's going to be a Blaney year. So top 5 teams, you got to go Blaney over Logano because of the year thing. I feel like it's too much hype around the lines to win the Super Bowl. I like Dan Campbell, but the attention they're receiving is crazy. Tends to not work out in the end, unless you're the Chiefs. LOL, says Dirty Duff. Yeah, and of course, the big thing about the Chiefs is they get too much help from the officiating crew. OJ and Toothpaste saying CHR. C-Bell is a really good driver. Okay, I got you. C-Bell's a really good driver. Dawson Fair, what's up, buddy? Did you see the video NASCAR released this week? If Blaney and Bubba back 20 years ago on a road trip making fun of other drivers, it's actually pretty funny. I haven't seen that one yet, but I have to go check it out. I know they've been friends for quite some time there. Hey, did you see my comments about snow plowing incident and eating Costco hot dogs, thinking about getting mustard on your beer? I didn't see it, but I'm seeing this one, which is crazy. So I don't know. Something is going on where they're not showing some people's comments because I think you mentioned this on the last one. So yeah, for some reason it's not showing your comments, but I can see this one. So that stinks. That stinks. But hopefully they stop banning your comments for whatever reason. And it's not the moderators doing it. It seems to be something like behind the scenes on YouTube because I can see it on my screen. When one of the moderators grabs somebody for saying something here on my side. So yeah, I don't know what's going on, John P, but that sucks, dude. Because I like reading your comments, dude. Let's see. I miss NASCAR and Scott Bloomquist, says Dawson Fair. Yep, it is a bummer, but NASCAR will be back soon. And Scott Bloomquist will always be with us on YouTube if you want to check that out. That way. Him saying the Buckeyes are his team makes me dislike Denny even more, says Dirty Def. I'm surprised Hamlin is a West Virginia Tech fan since he is from Chesterfield, Virginia. That is interesting. He probably pulls for them too. He probably doesn't really care one way or the other. I'm sure he's probably a huge UNC Tar Heels fan at this point. I know he's a big Charlotte Hornets fan. I have a feeling JRM and Trackhouse will be more than just the Trackhouse guys driving an Xfinity, says Escobar. Could be. There's a lot of talk about that as well. I don't know if any of it's true or not, but there's definitely a lot of people talking about it. Well, the chat are idiots here, says Bumblebee. Peace out, says Dirty Def. Peace out, Dirty Def. It says messages are deleted. So I have a friend that watches NASCAR with us at a local establishment. She was not into it until I picked up her driver to pull for Christopher Bell. Even got her a T-shirt. She loves it now, says Delmer Kaufman. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Let's see. Free T-shirts make for lifelong fans. I do think that's a thing. Well spoken, B. I have to keep closing the comments and open it back up because it doesn't keep up. Says PC Gone Rogue. So yeah, maybe it's on YouTube's end. C-Bell 2025 Cup champion says in between the lanes. Could be his year. It was posted on your videos, not on live, says John P. I have to go back and check then. So I am a little bit behind on those. So I have to go back and check that one. How many more weeks until the Rolex? I think it's only maybe two weeks, maybe 3. John P, I just wanted you to know you're not a troll like the ones I banned, says B. You're cool. Have you heard of Megan Maroney? She's a country singer. Have not heard of her, but I'll have to go check it out there, Dawson. My opinion on Mike Wallace is he should be allowed to run Xfinity and trucks and move into Cup. He has won in both series before, says Thunderstrikes. I feel like that's a fair plan to make, but maybe because he came to this deal so late in the game that that's why they couldn't put the plan in place. I don't know. It's all speculation. Picking someone whose last name begins with B for 2025 championship, says Brickyard Brickhead. Any chances NASCAR will announce more rules changes, playoff format changes, or changes in the number of cars eligible to compete in the playoffs, says Jamie Schweitzer. I feel like they are going to come up with something here because they basically mentioned that they're going to do it at some point. So it's hard to say, but I do think that we will get a playoff format tweak, but I don't think it'll be anything crazy. In between the lanes, for some reason, that just sounds right, says Dakota. Bumblebee, all good. Wouldn't disrespect BB or the channel like that. I just love him, says John P. And we love you back, my friend. Let's see. Dakota Piku, almost feel like revenge after last season at Martinsville. Just overall good and underrated driver, says in between the lanes. Hamlin said he had friends that were Buckeye fans. Okay, so there you go. He's rolling with his friends. That's respectable. Did you watch the Monster Energy Supercross at Anaheim and see Joe Schmoda and Chase Sexton win on Saturday, says Dawson? I didn't see that, but I saw a highlight of the race with some wild stuff going on there. Did you hear about Tom Brady and Jimmy Johnson teaming up with Ganassi? It'll give Sebastian Bourdais a chance to win the Indy 500 finally, says Bumblebee. I did see that, and I couldn't remember the drivers, and I forgot about the Ganassi part, but I did see that. So good deal there. Hopefully it works out better than Legacy's going right now. Watch the announcement be something like the 88 car doing a Daytona 500 tribute, or Kyle Busch's car using Dale Jr.'s 8 font at the Daytona, says Escobar. That would be interesting. I think it's just basically going to be Junior's, announcing a car though, and who drives it could be anybody's guess. It could be any of the Junior Motorsports drivers. Allgaier seems to be the one that people are leaning toward right now. 88 is SVG, says Lovey Barkley. Shane Van Gisbergen and Dawson. Dawson, I did. Happy the season started, says Rosie. Yeah, Rosie watched it for sure. She's a big motocross fan there, Dawson. Bourdais has 38 wins and 2 titles. All he's missing is the 500. So, hopefully he can get it. Final results of the poll question. Mike Wallace should be allowed to race, 35%. NASCAR is right in suspending him, not letting him race, 21%. NASCAR is right but should give him a path is 27%. And no opinion on the matter is 17%. All right. Looks like we reached the end of the chat. So that's going to be it for me on this one. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Until then, peace.